305, el número que representa el orgullo de ser parte de la ciudad de Miami y el sur de la Florida. Welcome to Miami. Welcome to Miami. Get ready for a taste of Miami with 305 Times. 305 Times.
Un programa bilingüe donde resaltaremos los buenos momentos que pasamos en la Ciudad del Sol. Beaches, nightlife, events, and must-see places. Todo mientras resaltamos la cultura latina. 305 Times. 305 Times.
Bajo la conducción de la periodista Sabrina Aponte. Los viernes a las 3 de la tarde. Por Pangea Plus.
Sumándole a tu vida. Sumándole a tu vida.
Get ready for a taste of Miami with 305 Times. 305 Times. Bajo la conducción de Sabrina Aponte por Pangea Plus. Bienvenidos. Get ready.
What's up, mi gente? Welcome back to 305 Times. Thank you for those that joined me last week. It was my first official day back. For those that have been following me, listening, whether it's on YouTube, the interviews that I have on my channel, or following me on social media. Thank you for joining me again for the second time. Slowly but surely, we're coming back here in the studio, adjusting to the whole social distancing, staying 6 feet, wipes everywhere, hand sanitizer, still following protocol here in the county as we slowly reopen to somewhat of a new normal during this pandemic. My name is Sabrina Aponte. Para esos que no me conocen, ya hemos estado más de un año con este programa. So it's a lot of accomplishments, bumps throughout the road, but I am grateful to be here, grateful to be spending another weekend with you guys, getting the weekend started here in 305 Times. And if you have yet to subscribe to the show, if you're listening to us online, because for those that listen to us, frequently, this is programación a las 24 horas en cualquier parte del mundo, completamente gratis, with Pangea FM, Pangea Plus, Pangea Academy. There's a little bit of everything here in Pangea Digital. It's a whole city what we got going on here. So thank you for those that are listening in live right now. If you're listening in through the podcast, thank you again. And I'm excited for today's show. This whole week has been it's been a little roller coaster. We had primary election day that happened on Tuesday, and like we spoke about it last week, I hope you all went out and vote, making that difference within our community. So important. I hope you guys are satisfied with the picks. There's a lot of back and forth when it comes to politics, but as long as you went out and vote, that's what mattered. You made sure that you took advantage of that privilege that it is. And also, Tuesday, it was a commemoration of the 100th anniversary of the 19th Amendment, which is a huge deal. Who would have thought, fast forward to 2020, we have a VP, a woman of color, vice president candidate. So it's crazy how much can change. It's also crazy to think that it's only been 100 years that women have been given the right to vote. But, we're here, we're still pushing, we're fighting for equality, more importantly, everything when it comes to economically, race. It's a whole movement that we have going on here. So we got to keep pushing through these bumps in 2020. That's always the spirit here in 305 Times, get the good vibes rolling and kind of forget about that negative energy from the outside world that we have going on right now. Back to school also this week, midweek that it happened, Wednesday, Broward County Public Schools and other counties throughout Florida started what was a new normal for students, teachers, parents, the entire staff virtually, having to learn. I can't imagine what that's like for parents right now that have to work from home and also teach their kids from home. So shout out to all the parents, really. The teachers also, this is a huge adjustment, having to teach online and making sure that, your message gets clear, that these kids are learning, that they'll be on their way to graduation, more importantly, and working on goals for the future. Who knows until when this is going to be, but I think it's a great idea. And in my opinion, the whole going back to school like certain states did, we've obviously seen how that's played out. So I think that's the last thing that we needed to be doing here in South Florida. So let's give it a few weeks. Miami-Dade County Public Schools is set to reopen at the end of this month. You know, they pushed back their weeks. I think they wanted to kind of see more or less how that went, how the numbers were going down. There was a lot of back and forth with the positivity rate. So, you know, it's all about being precautious, especially here in Miami. We've seen how many it's affected. A lot of us have either known of someone that's been affected by it or have personally been affected. So it is still something to take serious here, besides, you know, everything that we have in Miami to do, and so much that we want to get back to somewhat of our old lives, but we have to understand that it will never be the same. So just take precaution, enjoy the ride, the ride no matter where it's going to take us. And let's get started with today's show. I'm excited for who I'm about to introduce, because I kind of just ran into her, you know, on social media, the good old social media. So her name is Carolina Isabela, and she is our local tour guide here in the 305 in the Magic City. Welcome.
Hi, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for reaching out to me.
It's the miracle of social media, like we were saying. I'm like, somehow through a hashtag, a shared location, a repost, I ran into your page, and I'm like, this is great, because I think it's the type of content we need right now, just because we're all on our phones, we all have time, and it's great that you're using your time to teach the world that's coming here in Miami what we have to offer.
I mean, it's something that popped up because of coronavirus. I would have never done this had it not been because of COVID. I lost my job, and I was like, well, how can I utilize my knowledge and what I have to do something? So I guess that's something good that came out of it.
That's what it works. It's worked for you so far, and we're gonna get a little bit into that, exactly what you've been doing during this quarantine. But what I want the audience to know, who is Carolina, and how did you get started in tourism?
Okay, so yeah, my name on Instagram is Caro the Tour Guide, and a lot of people think that I just started to tour guide or like to do touring, I guess, during COVID, but I have been in the tourism industry for about 3 years now. I started off in Miami Beach doing bike and Segway tours, and it was just like something to change the pace of my life. I was in community college in Miami-Dade.
Miami-Dade, good old MDC.
I love MDC, I really do.
Parking and all.
Yeah. But it is kind of like it's not so interactive, you could say, not like FIU where you have a bit more of associations and clubs and people are more spirited. It's just kind of like, I'm here to go to school and
in and
out, and that's it. So it was a little bit lonely, and I was working at an office where it was also very lonely in the office, not too many employees, and I needed a change in pace. So I saw an ad on Craigslist. It was like, do you want to be a tour guide in South Beach? And I was like, well, why not? Yeah, sure. I guess so. So I just went for it, and I tried it out. I ended up really, really liking the whole thing. I liked being outdoors. I liked meeting people from all over the U.S. I loved learning about Miami's history. That was just like astounding to me. When I started to learn, I was like, what? This city it's insane.
So much.
It's done so much in so little time. So I started off there, and then for the past 2 years, I've actually been working in sales in Miami Tour Company. So I haven't done full-time tour guiding in about 2 years, but since I was a tour guide, I would do tours with them about once a week, just to kind of get out of the office and like switch it up every once in a while, and keep it fresh. And I've been doing that for the past 2 years. And then, of course, in March, I was furloughed. So that is my background.
But that's my background. That's my resume.
Yeah, that's my resume. In case anybody's hiring.
But you know what caught my attention with you was that, you know, you give an insight on a different Miami. It's not the Miami that, you know, people from out of town, you know, tourists are used to seeing, Ocean Drive, like, you
exactly.
know, they come in here with this party mood. At least prior to COVID, you know, this was nightlife, 24 hours really. The club closed, and you go after party somewhere else, space, good old space, something. I don't, it's always something here.
Yes,
or you go eat, you go through that drive-through, you know, it's a different experience what you're offering. So it's great, and not only for tourists, I think also for locals. There's, you know, honestly, so much we don't know.
It's for the locals. This is not for tourists. I interact with tourists all the time, and you know, they vibe really well with the kind of history, and a lot of them know way more than the local people would know about Miami's history. They're like, oh yes, I've heard about this and that and the Everglades and blah blah blah.
They did their research.
Locals though, like y'all don't know anything, you know. So that was kind of the goal. I'm like, I really want Miami locals to go out and think of, like, to know the history, because they're never gonna go on a tour. I don't know any of my friends who are gonna be like, oh yes, Saturday I'm off, let me go on a 4-hour bus tour, you know. Like,
To Descarga, yeah.
You know, everybody would say that's ridiculous. Like, I know Miami, you know, I know Miami, but you really don't.
Exactly. There's certain neighborhoods that you wouldn't go into, that you wouldn't go out to try out the restaurants, that you wouldn't go shop it.
And I've learned so many things in these past 3 years that I've delved much deeper into, that I just feel a sort of responsibility to bring this to the local audience and to a local younger audience, you know? So that's, yeah.
That's great. What exactly was it in Miami that kind of caught you into that direction, that made you want to do more of that research? You know, I mean, besides the historical neighborhoods that we have.
Right. So number one, the first big shocker for me was actually Little Havana. I remember when I started training being a tour guide, and they were like, oh yes, okay, so we're gonna do South Beach, and I'm like, oh yeah, of course, typical. And then they were like, okay, and then we're gonna go and train you for the Little Havana tour. And I just thought, why? I'm like, what are we gonna do over there? You know, I never thought that Little Havana was like a place to be. And then once we got there, we actually, the tour was that we started in Bayside and rode our bikes all the way to Little Havana, go down the roads. It was a really cool tour. And we would go to Little Havana, take people to a restaurant. I'd sit down with them, explain to them the food and the whole culture of everything. And we'd walk down Calle Ocho. And when I saw Calle Ocho and when I started getting trained of the history in that area, was when I was like, oh my God, I don't know shit, you know?
Aquí está sazón, really. I feel like that's when I think of Calle Ocho, Little Havana, like I'm just like, I obviously I think of the strip, but I'm like thinking of all the mom and pop shops, you know, because you don't, when you go into more residential areas, you know, like Kendall, we see more of the shopping plazas and brand names, you know, the big corporate stores, and then residential. We have so many houses. I mean, the population here is incredible how it's grown.
Exactly. But Little Havana's a whole other vibe. It's mom and pop. Like, you know, the people that are running this restaurant live right next door.
Upstairs.
They live upstairs. And it's just like, you really get to know the people, and it's a whole different vibe. So that was my first big shocker when I was learning. I was like, wow, Little Havana is great. And then I started learning more about the Grove. Then I started learning more about Key Biscayne. I started learning more about Miami Beach in general as well. There's a ridiculous amount of history in Miami Beach that is not, it's not just a party scene. Like, it's gone through so many different phases. So that is just kind of like why I got interested in doing this extra research and to continue doing tour guiding, because it's also sort of unorthodox. I am the youngest tour guide.
How old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
It's fine. I'm 24. I just graduated from FIU in December.
Go Panthers!
Go Panthers! But I started when I was 19, and I was doing a lot of tour guiding gigs, and eventually I got I guess more higher end ones, and I started working with a lot of people, and I was just always the youngest person in the room. All the tour guides in Miami are around their 40s and 50s, and they're wonderful, wonderful people, but they're old, you know?
Of course. And I'm sure they're already like worn out, seeing the same things, especially if, you know, if they're not really digging into like more of the culture, if they're doing the basic, you know, Miami Beach, Brickell, downtown Miami area.
They just don't have like liveliness. Like, they didn't show much passion into it, you know? So it was a different vibe. So I really saw the difference between how I would do my tours and how they would do their tours. And I learned so much from them. They were amazing people who showed me great things. But I was like, I'm going to bring a younger, more vibrant vibe to this and bring it to the locals, and we're gonna do that.
And I'm sure that helped a lot too with like the audience. You know, you get feedback, you get reviews from people, and I think it just you network that way too. You meet so many people.
Yes, I have met so many, but you know what, I didn't meet a lot of people while tour guiding. I met lots of great people like that I have actually stayed in contact with. Like, I have a lot of them on Instagram. And one tour in particular, I remember I did a tour for about 25 girls that were 22 to 28 years old. Like when I stepped on the bus, I was like, oh my God, you guys are like my age. And we immediately like clicked. And that night when the tour finished, I went home, changed, and we all went clubbing. Yes. Yeah.
Where were they from?
They were from all over. They were actually the last group that was allowed to go to Cuba. So they were doing a stop in Miami and then doing a tour, staying overnight, and the next day they were flying out to Cuba. So they were from just all over the U.S. A lot of them from Vancouver, Washington, but just all over the Midwest.
I love it. I feel like when us girls, once we click, it's like BFFs. Like we've known each other forever.
Yes. Like we have each other on Instagram and we're just commenting on each other's stuff. And that's for so many people. I like some of my old tourists have started families and everything. I'm like, oh my God, congratulations on your baby. And like things like as if we're like
you're following them through their journey.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. So I met lots of people while being a tour guide. But now with doing this page with Miami Mondays, I've met a lot of photographers, I've met a lot of content creators, I've met a lot of people now trying to build up in that like content creation and creative life. So that has been quite a change that I have thoroughly enjoyed.
That's like a whole nother side to it.
Exactly.
Like, it's one thing learning about, the city and being able to report that in front of a camera, and then you have like the background, the editing.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That is a whole other thing.
I want to talk about that a bit more, but getting back to a little bit of the history here in Miami, we have Overtown, obviously. You mentioned the Grove, Overtown, which was once called Colortown.
Yeah. It was Colortown, yes.
Colortown, yeah. And having like some of, I believe it was the Bigger Bethel AME Church is like the first black church. Like it's just so much history behind it, as well as in Coconut Grove.
No, Overtown it's crazy when you learn about the history. I did an episode on the Lyric Theater because that whole area used to be called Little Broadway, and it was essentially like it was an entertainment hub that was completely destroyed by the I-95, by the construction of that. But Overtown used to be so vibrant and lively, and it was growing. So once you learn that, you're just like, wow, I'm so disappointed. Like, I'm just so disappointed of what happened. But now as I go back, I am seeing some more growth. So we can hope that we'll have that same vision that we had back in the 30s again, and let's get Overtown thriving again. Especially,
being right literally a few feet away from Wynwood, which is like one of the biggest hotspots in tourism. The art, when we have Art Basel, just everything, the nightlife. It's crazy to think that, the poverty that is happening just a few blocks away, the crimes that are occurring like right around us, and we don't get to see that. We're not putting enough paying enough attention to those communities that are being affected by all this
absolutely
gentrification.
Yeah, it's a city that has been completely overlooked, and it's a shame. But the Lyric Theater and the Black Archives Foundation have done a wonderful job at making sure that they preserve the little that they have left, and then to expand and to create that vibrant city once again. So hopefully in the future they can, and that is one of the reasons that I believe history is so important. It allows you to get a better appreciation for the city, and just like this enthusiasm, like, oh my God, this used to be so great. Like we need to make it great again.
I love it.
Oh God.
Yes, Miami-Dade County.
Yes.
Now, with all that you've learned, what do you think has been the most interesting thing that you've learned throughout this process of Miami? That kind of stood out to you that you're like, wow, I had no idea.
Gosh, there's literally so many things that I have learned, because I've picked up on a couple things and I'm like, oh, okay, now I know that, but never really delved into it. like Stiltsville. I'm like, I always knew that was there, but now I delved into it and I went there and I sailed with this amazing sailing company, Salty Miami. They took me out and we did an episode on Stiltsville, and that was something that was just like so amazing and very unknown. And I mean, I don't want to reveal too much because there's still a lot of episodes I haven't done, and I want you guys to tune in.
All right, but that one was your last one. That's the one you just dropped this last Monday.
And I dropped the Spanish version today on my Instagram. So if you guys, el español, por favor, está disponible.
En todas las plataformas, Miami Martes.
Yes, Miami Martes.
I love that. Miami Mondays, Miami Martes. Now let's talk, before Miami Mondays a little bit. You mentioned you were furloughed pre-quarantine. What was that like? What did you study? I didn't even ask, what did you graduate with?
I graduated in international business, but I also took some classes in hospitality and tourism because FIU has the best hospitality school in the US. I think they're number 6, but then they have the best online course, but I don't know. I think they have probably the best. So I've done some hospitality classes as well as like I did a marine tourism class. I did a class on restaurant management and other things. So I always dabbled in the hospitality industry, but ultimately I graduated in international business.
Okay, so you got a little bit of everything. You have the business side, also the tourism. So that's great because it comes hand in hand. And now, okay, so this happened, quarantine, COVID, you were furloughed. How did that affect you in every type of way? Like mentally, it's been so much, like even for me, and thankfully, I thank God that I'm still employed, but yeah. I can't imagine, how it's taken a toll on others.
It's funny because in the beginning of 2020, I thought to myself, this year, I'm going to take a break. I have been working full time, sometimes 2 jobs at a time. When I was working as a tour guide in South Beach, at night for some months, I also worked as an activity leader for a language school in South Beach as well, while still going to school. So I've just always been juggling a million things. Hustling. That Miami vibe, we're hustlers out here. So I have, for the past 5 years, I've just been like, waking up at 5 a.m, going to bed at like midnight. And in the beginning of 2020, I thought to myself, okay, I graduated. I'm going to take a little bit of a break and I'm going to delve more into my passions. I am a very outdoorsy person. I love rollerblading. I love biking. I love sports. I love creative things. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to take a break. And then coronavirus happened and like the universe was just kind of like, here you go, girl. So I was furloughed, and of course it's a little stressful because of the uncertainty, but at the end of the day, I was very blessed and grateful that I was somewhat prepared. I had savings. I have been like saving money already, and so I had been cautious on that field, so I was able to just kind of like settle a little bit. And then thankfully, of course, the government stepped in. I qualified for unemployment, so that was just like, okay, great, I can survive. But then also I'm not the type of person to just sit around, so even though I was like still able to survive, it does take an emotional toll.
Definitely.
You wake up and you're like,
what do I do now?
Oh God, what do I do today? It's day. It's not Tuesday, it's day. So that was where Miami Mondays came into play and saved my emotional health, I guess.
Let's talk about Miami Mondays. Creativity, everything. I love the detail to uploading at 3:05 the episode. It's the little things that really just hit home. What was it that you were like, all right, Miami Mondays, this is what I'm gonna do? How did you get started? Did you have multiple ideas before actually getting started, or
no? So thank you for pointing out the small detail things. I am definitely
we noticed, girl. We noticed.
I'm like somewhat of a perfectionist, so it's just like I think about every single little detail that I can. But Miami Mondays was just an idea that I had on a Sunday afternoon. I was just, I don't know, I was meditating or something, and it just came to me, a Sunday fun day. And I thought, you know what, with all this time that I have, I know about all these historical landmarks, let me just like create little videos on a different historical landmark and name it Miami Mondays and do it every week. And I just started with that idea. I didn't do anything else. and I posted a picture on my Instagram to keep myself accountable. So it was like, hey, I posted an old picture that I had of me being a tour guide in front of the bus. I'll show it to you right now.
Is that the one that you look like you're singing? I went through your pictures, girl.
Oh, yes, the one that looks like I'm singing. So I posted that one because I thought it was funny, and I was like, I'm back, y'all. Since I can't be out and about giving tours, I've decided to share my knowledge and do these Miami Monday videos. So I posted that on Sunday when I had the idea to keep myself accountable, like do it. And then the next day on Monday, I got on my bike. I went to Miami City Hall. With just my phone and like selfie style, and I was like, all right guys, so this is Miami City Hall. It was built in this time and this time, and then I gave the information, and then I got home and I was like, all right, how do I edit this, and I had to find a software that works. So that was just like a big time crunch that, I figured it out, but I mean, it was just so I can't stress to you how little planning went into this.
It comes out great. So it's very genuine. You could tell it's like at least something that you're passionate about, and you're learning through the process.
Definitely. You can see the progression of each episode. Like the first one is just like selfies. The first 3 are just selfie style, me talking in the camera, and then I finally get a little mic, and then I finally get a little tripod, baby steps. So I just like each episode I'm learning, and I'm like, okay, how much more, like how can I improve the next episode? So it's a learning process.
And that you're motivating yourself when you see that progress and how you're improving and everything. And to think that I really thought you studied like journalism, broadcast journalism, because just the way you speak and the way you're reporting, like, the history, the facts, it's really nice. It's refreshing.
Well, it's funny that you say that, because one of the reasons that I started tour guiding is, I was studying business, and something important in business is presentation skills. You're talking like, if you're going to have a meeting,
you gotta sell something.
You gotta sell. If you're gonna be a CEO of a corporation, you have to be able to orate in a certain way, and just narration. It's important. And so I thought one of the benefits of being a tour guide would be to be able to work on that. And so that's just kind of that was one of the reasons I also did tour guiding. one of the effects of it.
It was destiny. You were meant to do it.
It really was. It really was.
It happens. So something else I wanted to discuss, especially now that I have you here, because I saw you. You commented on it last week. I kind of briefed what was going on in Biscayne Bay and what's occurring right in our backyards. Not my backyard because I don't live around there, but still, it's our city. This is the ocean we enjoy swimming in, kayaking, everything. And we've been seeing, the dead fish, unfortunately, near like Morningside Park, everything that's occurring. So I spoke about it briefly last week. Since then, the mayor has taken it upon himself to try to make a difference, working with the local organizations that are helping out. They're actually calling people out in our communities to clean up. That's one of the things that they're recommending, obviously due to the pollution, the fertilizer runoff, the high water temp, everything. I think everything has just taken a toll, and of course it's 2020, so they said, why not? Here, have some dead fish, everything, unfortunately.
But the Biscayne Bay has been having issues for a long time.
For a few years now.
In November, actually, right before I graduated, I went with FIU. FIU chose a group of students to go to Washington, D.C., and we all went for a water policy discussion to meet with legislators to learn more about plastics and how they're affecting us. We met researchers from FIU, because FIU is one of the most important institutions in Miami when it comes to that type of research. We're constantly monitoring the water to make sure that is habitable for these fish, because that affects every single aspect of our life, not only our livelihood and our water supply and our infrastructure, but our economy. If the Biscayne Bay is no longer thriving, what tourist is going to want to come here? They come here for the beaches. They come here for the wildlife. Nobody's going to come here, and 60% of our revenue comes from directly or indirectly from hospitality and tourism. Yep. So if we let that die, say goodbye to this city. Nobody's going to be able to live here.
Absolutely. And like you said, it's been going on for several years, right? We see it with everything, with the amount of floodings we get during hurricane season. Downtown Miami is just like, it's the tides coming in, it's like, wow, this is really happening. Like our city looks like it's going underwater little by little.
And we had the algae. That was another thing that we spoke about in Washington, D.C., and how the farmers in Middle Florida are affecting, and these lobbyist groups from the sugar plantations, how they're affecting legislation so that they're able to run off fertilizer and they're able to run off whatever they please without really any consequence. And that has affected us, as we saw last 2 years ago. I think it was the algae, or the red tide it was called.
The red tide.
So that was a product of that, carelessness. And we just need to make sure that we pressure legislators into making sure that they do something about this, and that they are regulating and controlling farmers and developers. Developers come here and they can just do whatever they want. We cannot allow that to happen. We must be strict with our city, which is why also it's important to know the history so that people can really feel a caring and a love for it. You can really love something when you appreciate it a lot more, when you appreciate where it's come from. So that's also a big part of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate that people don't already do that living here, like this is your city, you live where people vacation,
Yeah, right?
Like, why not?
I know.
So what they're asking volunteers to do is to help clean up the decomposing marine life, before it releases more of this bacteria into the bay. More importantly, there's Morningside Park, Pelican Harbor Marina, Baywood Orc, Margaret Pace Park, Legion Park. These are some of the areas that are being affected heavily. And the mayor of Miami, Francis Suarez, has obviously been hearing out. It's one of those things that it sucks that it has to be this late, when we've already seen. But, slowly but surely, this is what matters, that people are reposting, that people are volunteering, that people are caring, and it gets to the local officials. They've now taken a step forward in trying to solve this. They're currently installing 1,000 inlet filters that are supposed to help out with the pollution control during the stormwater system happening. They were actually part of a pilot program. According to the city of Miami, they were part of the pilot program where they were originally installing 20, and they already have some in Brickell, downtown Miami area, but now they're working alongside the entire city, and especially these areas that are affected. I feel like everything goes back to budgeting, and
well, that also plays a lot into awareness. So this is something that researchers have been bringing up to the city for a while, because as actually the sailor that I just went out with Salty Miami, they put it out, they said it perfectly. We are a first world city with a third world infrastructure, and the environmental activists of Miami, of course, they're bringing this to the city. But when two people come up to the mayor and are like, oh, we should be doing this, two people is not going to affect anything. So now, oh my God, it's so unfortunate that that this dead fish thing had to happen for the city to do anything. No, it's more like, this dead fish thing had to happen for the city of, like, the people to bring awareness and to become activists into pressuring the city to do it. Because at the end of the day, politicians can't read our minds, or they can't they can't know every single problem before it becomes a problem. So that is where we also have to come into play to make sure that we are mobilizing, like the troops, us and the population, to pressure the government officials into doing these things. And that's why we need awareness, and lots of it.
Exactly. Yes, a lot of retweet, repost, because clearly that's the way that we have to get to our officials.
Thankfully, we can do that in this day and age. Thankfully, that we're able to do that, and thankfully, there's a lot of great organizations that are putting in work.
That too. They're the ones that are really stepping forward for our communities, cleaning up. Whether it's like trash being cleaned up, but now the dead fish and the other species that are dying.
I definitely want to give a shout out to one of the organizations, Miami Waterkeeper. They have been one of the ones that are monitoring every single second of the day, making sure that
the levels
and everything. So they have been an amazing organization. I just want to thank them for their work, because this is something that needs to be done, and thankfully there are people out there doing it. So we need to support them and continue bringing this awareness. And I mean, they're amazing.
Absolutely. Now let's get a little bit back into Miami Mondays. We spoke about Miami Martes, which now you're transitioning to Spanish.
Yeah, I've gotten a lot of requests to do the Spanish video because I do speak Spanish. It's just not my forte, like I was telling you, just my second language. But a lot of requests, so I'm like, all right, guys, I'll do it.
Practice makes perfect. I started with the show in Spanish, and now I'm transitioning in English. But English is my first language. But I mean, growing up, in a Hispanic household, it's growing up in Miami. It's like
it's a blessing. It's a blessing that we got to do both.
And that's what I wanted to talk a little bit about. Where are you from, and how was your childhood growing up you're Hispanic?
Yes. I was born in Colombia, in Medellin.
Colombiana, paisana.
Yeah, paisana.
Ni sabía, y vea, ahí está frente mío.
So you're from Colombia?
De Cali.
Oh my God. You know what? I heard you speak Spanish and I was like, wait a second.
We recognize each other.
Hold on a second. But yes, I was born in Medellin, but my family came here when I was very young, about 3 years old. So I grew up in Miami, but like I said, like we just said, thankfully, Miami allows you to continue to cultivate that Latin, identity with you. So I'm really grateful for Miami in that sense as well. Imagine if we were in the Midwest, we'd be gringos all the way.
That's what I'm saying. And you're more Colombian than me. I was actually born here in Miami.
Look at that.
But my family's Colombian. I had some of my childhood was in Colombia. I got to go to school there. So I'm always like, I'm like super proud Colombiana. Yes. And just like, if I can do this in Spanish, I'm like, it's because I grew up in Miami, and I have, all these cultures around me, and that was something I wanted to talk about, because like you said, Miami's like completely different, and we don't claim Miami as being part of Florida around here.
No.
We're like Miami-Dade County.
Yes. If somebody asks you where you're from, I'm from Miami. I'm not from Florida. I'm from Miami. And if somebody else that's not from Miami, but they're from Florida, they're like, yeah, I'm from Florida.
It's completely different. If you've never been here to Miami, if you don't live here, if you've only come, for several days, you can't really like put that into words. But I think I realized it as I got older, and just going out on my own, like trying new spots, like you said, kind of just venturing off into new restaurants, new mom and pop shops, local shops, local artists, and just seeing like so much that we have. And I'm like, if I were to have grown up elsewhere, I mean, it's like my Spanish would have been horrible. Yes. I would have not had that in me, because we have all these foods around us. We get to grow up eating, bandeja paisa, arepa, everything.
We can have Ecuadorian tomorrow, then Nicaraguan, then Cuban,
comida
Salvadorian.
Típica. It's like
blessing.
I've gone up north. I have some family that lives up north, like towards Palm Coast, and they have maybe that one Colombian bakery for the entire city.
Oh God, I don't know how they do it.
If they even have
if they do. If anything Hispanic, it's just Mexican, and that's it.
That's what I'm like. One of the things that I'm so fortunate about living in Miami and getting to experience all that. I'm like, I don't know what other part of Florida I'd be able to really.
We're blessed. And having two languages under our plate is also another thing that it's like that is not to be taken advantage of. There are so many gringos trying to learn Spanish, and they struggle, and I give them so much prop when I meet an American, like a norther American
panhandle,
and they speak Spanish to me, and I respect them so much. I'm like, you had to actually go out and learn and push for this. I had to, or else I couldn't speak to my parents,
You couldn't translate the letters.
You couldn't. Oh my God, you just brought back some
That's
memories.
for like my grandparents. ¿Qué dice esto aquí, mija?
You're like 4 years old reading immigration papers. Like, I don't know what this means. It's like, how do you not know what it means? Don't you go to school?
Thankfully, my mother, she speaks English fluently. She was actually born in New York, but my dad, he is, caleño, bandera Colombia tatted on him, and it's like, it's a big deal, having to speak in Spanish and knowing how to write also in Spanish. And that's what you're doing now with Miami Martes, which is great. So you're pushing yourself that extra limit.
Myself so much. I thought about it last week because I was thinking about just releasing it on YouTube to get more people on my YouTube, but I wasn't really getting subscribers. And I was like, gosh, this is so much extra work, because it is a lot of. It's a one woman.
Let's talk about that, because everyone everyone needs to know what happens behind that 2-minute video and all the stress, the pain. How do you stay sane? Because you're producing, you're reporting, you're editing, you know, like you're doing your research on all of this, and it's like a million things at once. You're on a boat.
I'm sailing. I'm like, welcome to Miami.
I'm like, who's shooting for her?
Well, thankfully for that one, I did have my friend. She held the GoPro thing, you know. So for that one, I did have help. But for all the other ones, it's just me. It is me. It is very overwhelming. It's a great question to ask about how I stay sane, because trust me, I have had panic attacks. Like I'm about to go shoot and I'm like literally freaking out. I have to pace back and forth because I'm like, this is too much. I'm overwhelmed. I'm like, it's a scary thing. I don't know why, but it's just a little bit scary to go somewhere and just like set your tripod down and talk in front of the video, and people are just looking at you, and it seems stupid to care about that, but I mean, go try it. All right, it's a little hard.
No, and then we have the weather. It's like everything. It's everything just takes a toll on you. I mean, I've had to go out to events by myself, and you know, you're kind of like the photographer. Then you go back home, you edit by yourself, and it's like a whole thing. You got to get the tripod and the lighting and the mic and this, and oh my god, I'm like, I wish everyone would see all the behind the scenes that happens, and then you got to push out the content.
Exactly, and the marketing too. I'm doing it all. It really is a one-woman show, but these 2-minute videos take me work. They take me work, and it's a lot, but it's fun. I enjoy doing them, but and a lot of times, I think like you just said, you go and you film and you shoot, and then you go home and you're editing, and you're like, oh my god, I need to redo this shot. No. That happened to me with 2 videos that I basically had to go back to location 3 different times because the lighting was off. My hair had a ridiculous thing that I didn't notice because I don't have somebody behind the camera to be like, oh god, you know, fix this and do that. I'm just like, no. And when I film, what I do is that I have a storyboard, so I also just create the storyboard before I go, and I rehearse it, and I'm like, okay, these are my lines and this is what I'm gonna say, and then I'm gonna get this B-roll. So I do prepare before I film, and I create that storyboard. I get there, I'll do the lines, and then I look at the video right then and there. So I'm like, okay, good. But there's just a lot of things that you don't catch in the moment when there's a million other things to be thinking about. Oh my god, how am I gonna, I don't know, like paying for parking, or like there's somebody looking, or like I have limited time because the sun's about to go down. Like there's just a lot of things in your mind, so I'm not able to fully focus. And then once I go to edit, I'm like, oh my god, you know, ooh,
I could have done this. I could have done this a little bit better to make the shot maybe walk through. Oh my hair.
Or I filmed it incorrectly because with the B-roll, I film it in landscape. So if this happened to me in the beginning when I just wasn't getting used to it, I would film the B-roll portrait oriented, exactly. And so I would go back to edit. I'm like, fudge, no.
A zoomed in shot doesn't look the same. It's not going to look as wide as a landscape. It takes away the whole, you know.
No, it looks terrible when you're editing, and I'm a perfectionist, so I'm just like, I am not about to push this ugly content. Like, that's not happening, you know? So that happened to me in Virginia Key. That was one of my toughest, I guess you could say, like, or it just like beat down on me. I'm like, I have to keep going back. No.
You're going to get those. I've had so many issues too with the audio, trying to get those gnats and just everything, the static, and I could hear myself, but then when I play it, it's not.
Exactly. That's why I actually had sort of like an anxiety attack before Stiltfill one, because I'm like, this really is one shot. For the other ones, I'm like, I could essentially go back. Like, if I make a mistake, it's okay, whatever, I'll go back. But I was like, if I make a mistake, like, that's it. No, oh my god. And I was just like freaking out. But thankfully, it wasn't so bad. I mean, I don't know if you saw the audio in the beginning. That was just like...
But you added the music, like it kind of goes into the whole transition of your intro. So
yeah. But I mean, at one point I did have to, at home, I just did a voiceover.
Okay.
So it was a little bit strange because all my other scenes, you could hear a little bit of wind, or like you can hear a little bit of the outdoor, but the other one was crystal clear. It was crystal clear. So I just like started laughing. I'm like, whatever, it is what it is, but it was funny.
You enjoy yourself. And that's why it's so important, for everyone listening, those in Miami, you know, the community, to just support each other and, you know, share that video, repost, go like, subscribe.
Yes.
Where can everyone, you know, follow you, watch your videos, and I think you have a Patreon also, right?
Yes, I do. So the best way to support, well, number one, the easiest way to support is liking, commenting, and sharing. So liking and commenting, and helps with exactly. It helps with the algorithm, and I can be put on the Explore page, and more people can find me and things like that. And then sharing it, of course, can get it out to your followers, and people might be interested in following me. So that would be really, really great. We can get the whole community really interested in Miami's history. So that is the easiest way to support me, and so I hope you guys all do that. And then also subscribe to my YouTube. I am going to be putting out YouTube only content soon, because I'm like, y'all,
you have to look at the camera when you say that.
YouTube only content, okay? It stops here. I have been, you know, coddling you all with my only Instagram content. I am making YouTube only content, so subscribe to my YouTube. It's just Caro the Tour Guide. I have to get like 100 subscribers to be able to edit the URL to make it the short thing. Yeah.
That's how that works.
Yeah, it's so annoying. I'm like, come on, y'all. Like,
no.
So I have like 53 subscribers. So help me get the 100 subscribers so I can have like a normal looking URL. So that's another way. And then yes, I do have a Patreon. So like I said, this is a whole production that I do completely by myself, and it is a lot of work to produce, to edit, to be the star of the show. And I generally would like to upgrade my equipment. So if you want to support me financially, then please subscribe on my Patreon and become a patron. And I mean, when I become famous, you'll be like, yeah, I supported that girl when she was small, you know?
I know Miami because of her. I'm pretty much a local now.
Exactly. You will be a Miami expert in no time. I will get you all into shape. But yes.
I love it. Hopefully, you know, ending quarantine sometime soon. Who knows when. What do you think is going to be the new Miami?
I think the new Miami is going to be a more loving Miami, a more community inspired Miami. I've already felt it within myself. I know my neighbors now, you know. Really? Yes. I mean,
after how many years of living next to them?
Yeah, literally. I've been living in my apartment for almost 2 years, and now I'm like, hey, you're my next door neighbor. Exactly. So now that I'm home all the time and I'm just sitting on my balcony, I'm like the viejita of the neighborhood, because I'm just watching. I'm just a watchdog.
People watching. That's
people
the best
watching.
thing to do, especially here in Miami.
Yes.
You see some people do the craziest
No,
things.
you gotta know who's around. I'm like, I haven't seen that person around here before.
More importantly, yes, be aware of our surroundings.
Yes. So I've really gotten close to my neighbors, and I feel like we've gotten more of a community vibe because of quarantine, because you realize a lot of things, and we have realized a lot of things, that community and relationships are the most important things in life, and cultivating those relationships are important. So I think it's going to be a more loving Miami, and that is what I hope to cultivate on my page as well. I think that if I really grow and continue growing and doing all of this, then I can also help create that Miami as well. So that's what I want, and I think that we are headed in that direction. People are motivated. People, the subscribers that the followers that I do have now are loving learning more about Miami. So I know that this is something that people are interested in. So it's going to be a very community-oriented, loving vibe. I believe it. I'm very confident in that.
This is the one thing that, I mean, everyone goes through their own, you know, struggles, their own problems at home, and even on their own. But this is the one thing that has kind of, you know, brought everyone together in the world. Yes. I mean, this is a pandemic. Everyone's going through it. You know, we're all looking for a better outcome and staying hopeful. I think it's like the best thing to do right now.
It's really unique. Like you said, it's something that it's not just unique to the Miami city of Miami. It's not unique to Florida. It's not unique to the US. It is the entire world going through the exact same problem. Like, what is that? You know, like it's completely unique, and I think there have been positives in it. You know, if you have been blessed, which I have thankfully been blessed enough to not have been impacted badly by it, then I think there are lots of positives that can be taken from it. So it is what it is.
And you got Miami Mondays out of it.
And I got Miami Mondays out of it.
There's that. Subscribe.
Subscribe.
Thank you so much, Caro, for joining me today. And I'm excited for what's to come and, continuing to keep up with you and kind of Miami. I'm looking forward to finally being able to like go back on your videos when I'm like not as scared of going outside.
Right.
And being like, okay, I want to go there. I want to try this out. And, kind of just get out there more.
And like when you go there, you'll know what's up. Because it's like when you look at a building, you're like, wow, that's a pretty cool building. But now you can be like, oh my God, Zaha Hadid built that building. And she was one of the most amazing female architects. And it just makes you look at that building like, wow. So that's also another thing. Like you'll be able to really appreciate the things that you're looking at in Miami.
Miami proud over here. Miami. 305 Dade County till the death of me.
Yes. Yes, I am. Miami 305 till I die.
That's great.
Thank you for having me. Yes, thank you so much for having me and allowing me to voice also my side of the story so people know. I am going to be dropping an About Me video exclusively on YouTube. That's going to be the first one. Subscribe. Because I get these questions asked a lot. So I'm going to be dropping that About Me video and explaining more about the tour guide journey because there has been...
I'm sure you have experiences.
Oh,
you have a few years to go back on and kind of just...
So I'm going to be dropping that. And thank you so much for having me. It was a great time.
Everyone stay tuned to Miami Mondays every Monday at 3:05.
Every Monday. And I just started a new series.
Miami Martes? Or which one?
I started yesterday, so it's okay.
Okay. I was like, did I miss out on?
No, it's okay. I literally just started it yesterday. It's called W Wednesdays because I'm answering all your who, what, and where questions about Miami. So I started the first episode with what to do in Miami and with Salty Miami, the sailing company that took me out to Stiltsville. They're an amazing duo that are so conscious about the earth. They're passionate about Biscayne Bay. They're passionate about sailing. I loved going out with them and I had the best experience. And I did not get paid by them, just so you know. So
this is not an ad.
It is not an ad. It really is coming from the heart. So I just started that series on who, what, and where to, in questions about Miami. So to stay tuned for Wednesdays as well.
So you got Monday through Wednesday is what you have for now.
Oh my Lord, you're right. Oh Lord, I'm doing too much.
Keep pushing, girl. Keep pushing, and I'm sure.
Throwback Thursdays and
yes. What's next? Everyone has to stay tuned to check it out and see what's to come. Are you going to be offering tours anytime soon? Do you think you'll go back to that, or you're?
So no, I actually just got an amazing job as a territory manager for a transportation logistics company, and I'm starting at the end of September.
Congratulations!
Thank you. I'm so excited about it. It is what I studied, and I'm very passionate about what I'm going to be doing. But I will continue to create this content. And what's really great is that they like followed me and like they understood. Like when I got the job and she offered me the job, she was like, I just wanted to give you the job. Also, your last episode was so great. I was like, what? You subscribe? Yes.
That's the support everyone needs.
That's the support everyone needs. And she was like, look, I just want you to know, like, if you have an opportunity to film and you need like to do something, you let me know and we can make it work. And I was like, I cannot believe I just found this company. Like, what is that?
That is amazing.
Amazing. So I am going to be working full time there, but I'm still going to be creating my content because I love this. And this next month, I'm going to be pushing as much content as I can to like sort of have a backlog.
Right.
So when I start working full time, like I'll still film, but I won't be too stressed out on deadline. So that is what's going on in my future.
Well, we're all looking forward to it. Thank you so much again, Caro. I'm taking you guys into the weekend. We're going to go into a short music break for now with some reggaetonera, Anuel AA. Let's go.